Welcome to this new adventure about a band that was and is one of a kind. With very inventive ways to play rock and roll, a lot of albums, and many hits on charts, this podcast is about the Kinks, a well respected band that has surpassed the lines of time. Every week, listen to this podcast and enjoy it listening as I am doing it by saying it. An underrated band? Maybe. A very British way to sing songs? Well, yeah. They are from the UK and they have the right to do it. But they did great. Ray Davies, Dave Davies, Bill Breif, and Nick Ivory are the founder members of the Kinks. My name is Matt Ortiz and let's begin. Welcome to this podcast called A Well-Respected Band, a podcast about the Kings, one of the bands that, in my point of view, is kind of underrated. I really love the sound these guys did, and they create a new kind of way to play rock and roll based on familiar stuff, and here you will learn about them in all kind of stories, all kind of theories, all kind of songs, going gradually from the very beginning when they were just small kids, little kids, and then until they stardom on just the world. So come join me and enjoy this first chapter about a well-respected band called the Kinks. So let me tell you that what happened in the Kings world geographically, it was like based on concentric rings on 6 Denmark Terrace, the Davies family home in North London in a residential area called Fortis Ring between Muswell Hill and East Finchley. Within these rings were the homes of assorted Davies sisters and brothers-in-law and cousins, the home of bassist Peter Quaife, the parks that Davies' brother played in, the library from which they borrowed books by the likes of George Orwell and Alice Silto, the first school they attended, and the modest semi-detached house that Ray Davies goodbye in 1965 during the group's early rush to fame. Now, let me tell you, this podcast is going to be about the songs, the band, obviously the history behind all these kind of songs. They were ambiguous. That was one of the strengths of Davies as a songwriter. He has this kind of strength, and his best songs change the way from one moment to the other. It's like he just wrote what he was living, and but it was ambiguous. It was not so direct to the point of the meaning of the songs, but it was most based in experiences that he was living in and how he translated into stories that obviously erased or disguised this kind of person or people living around him, giving the meaning to these stories more poetical or like fun stories and sometimes sad stories, but never being so direct as well many songwriters did. This kind of songwriting Davies did was kind of even confusing for band members, that they often express their own confusion about whether their songs should be taken seriously or satirically. It's like they didn't know if Davies was just making fun of some of the facts that they were living or he was living, or if the lyrics were actually something real and serious. So they were all confused about this stuff. Other kind of thing is that Ray Davies songs, it's like they are photographs, like ironic distancing between the present he was living and whatever situation of attitude he found him in his daily life. So it was like something that happened to him. That's why I chose the picture book in beginning intro, because they were like always talking about something that we're living, but actually they were just like photographing these situations and make them a song. Well, Ray Davies, of course, the main songwriter in this band. Dave was the younger brother. It was 3 years younger than Ray, and at the age of 17, he behaved the way the most teenage boys in the situation, like being famous. It was like, wow, 17 years old and I'm famous. Imagine that. Many critics have noted the contrast between Ray's emotional attachment and Dave's passionate enthusiasm was central to the Kinks' success. Ray's lyrical and melodic gifts enabled the Kinks to become something more than just another British beat band. And Dave's pounding guitar and high yearning vocals provided the emotional intensity that Ray often lacked. Ray was always a loner, the thoughtful and retiring one in a large and boisterous family, and you can hear that loneliness in many of his songs. Indeed, these kind of songs, Ray Davies wrote songs that made you think that he was not as happy as he may sing, or you may think about him. Without Dave, Ray could probably never have taken the plunge into pop stardom. Without Ray, Dave could probably never have made music that stood out from the crowd. The third thing that Ray's smear can tell us has to do with the self-effacement. The first thing we would notice would be a sizable gap between Davies' two front teeth, the result of a childhood accident, and something that he worked to hide as much as possible before the Kinks. When he was member of the Day Hunt band, he got an intimation of what life as gap-toothed pop star could be like when a girl made fun of him for it. So she was a lot older than Davies, and she told him something that was kind of cruel. And after they finished playing and sing some of her, and she said, well, that's all very well, but as soon as you smiled, you messed it all up. When the King started to become popular, he developed a technique of singing with the top lifts in order to expose the gap as little as possible. So Ray Davies' big trauma was this gap between his teeth, and that's why he always tried to sing the closest or the with the mouth open the less possible way. When Ray Davies is failing to smile in his photos, then what he is really doing is hiding. This practice of creating a false front behind which to conceal with his real false self permeates most aspects in his art, from the characters he creates in his songs to the flamboyant, larger-than-life personas he sometimes adopts on stage. In his unauthorized autobiography is a good example of this. He adopts a complicated conceit in which a young first-person narrator is hired by a nameless corporation to interview an aging and slightly mad rock star named Raymond Douglas, who is clearly a stand-in for Ray Douglas. Douglas is his middle name. As a child, Raymond Douglas says he had been fascinated by the hunchbacked gardener in his neighborhood, whom the local children mocked, and throughout the book he adopts the little hunchbacked man as a recurring symbol of his own insecurities, the gardener's physical deformity acting as a magnified version of Davies' own shortcomings, physical and otherwise. So this is basically the Kinks. Ray Davies fighting and struggling with this shyness he just had because of this girl that told him that everything was cool, everything was fine, until he began smiling. Obviously, when you are young and kind of insecure, and I guess many of artists, myself, are insecure because, well, we see life in a different kind of way. We see life in a more kind of with feelings, with emotions, and I guess if someone tells you something and for them, for that kind of people that is telling you something, it might seem something so light, something so without importance, but for we as artists, we everything we heard, everything we feel we have as a weakness, well, this is like changing our way to see life. We think that we cannot be judged because we judge ourselves so much, and obviously that's why we write songs. That's why we write stories, because we like to be another person but us. And it's kind of a struggle because in a way we are living several lives. In a way we are living several stories to hide our weaknesses and obviously also to survive. Sometimes we have to write stories where the hero is someone strong and confident and faces everything and fearless, while in reality we tend to be the opposite our characters are. So that's why we used to write songs, that's why we used to write stories and books and everything, because we enjoy living the life we dream in our brains. And it's hard, but it's not impossible to do it. So, well, this is one of the other kind of podcasts I'm going to be creating, the podcast about the Kinks, and this is called A Well-Respected Band, obviously because they have a song called A Well-Respected Man. And, well, what can you expect of this podcast? Well, you can expect to listen to the story of the Kinks, to listen to the songs, the points of view about the songs, the albums, and everything as I can get possible information to bring you and to, well, to honor this great band. I know that many people consider the Beatles as one of the biggest bands, but I guess the Kinks have also been influential through the ages, and that's why I am creating this podcast, because I found them and I discovered them, and then I enjoy the songs they have. Obviously, not all the music is kind of so easy to digest, but it's like you have to listen to the lyrics, you have to pay attention to the music, and basically they create a good way to play hard rock or alternative rock. Well, that's my point of view. Obviously, you can think differently, but, well, that's what I think, and that's why I'm making this podcast about the Kinks. See you next time, and keep rocking with the Kinks, a well-respected band. Please, if you like this podcast, like it, share it, and download it to help me to provide you better and best information. See you.